Welcome to the real world. I can show you the world.
And then?
And you'll be in a world of legendary moments will be captured. So stand up, scream, and make sure the boys feel you.
And the only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys? Yeah!
What is going on, Cowboy Nation? Welcome back to Primetime Studios. Like always, I'm your host, Primetime Phil. It's been a while. It's kind of like saying it all comes back to me. That's right, a long time ago where it was a Cowboys season and we had our hopes and dreams and we weren't thinking about off-season stuff. We were talking about, let future Primetime Phil and Gamtime Bryan worry about that stuff, because right now it's all about playoff football. And look where we're at. Vacation time, of course, for the Dallas Cowboys. But one thing that we're not on vacation is, of course, Primetime Phil and, of course, Gametime Bryan. Gametime, welcome back, sir. Welcome back.
Welcome. It seems like it's been forever. Well, it's because it has been forever. But at the end of the day, we are back. I got to pick your brain, man. I've been yapping my mouth off for 2 weeks about the shit show choke job that we did. But we're going to get into it. But I am excited to be back with Phil. And how's everybody? Twiz. We got
Jason
Renfro
in here.
Mike Galdana, Jason Renfro. What's going on, everybody? I hope everybody's having a good Saturday night.
So here we are.
We're ready to roll. Ronnie, what up, Ronnie?
Stop here right there, making sure that my internet is going good, making sure everything's going clear on this side. Looks like everything's going ahead. The system hasn't worked in a while. I just got to make sure that it's all working correctly. Yeah, it's all like, I remember it's like like war games. I'm just pulling off the dust and everything, you know. Oh yeah, there you go.
Vacation time.
The vacation time for D-Law right there and his Cowboys thing for his horse and floaties. But yeah, here we are, man. We're talking about the Dallas Cowboys, talking about the offseason. Of course, on this channel is the first sign of offseason talk. I know you've been talking quite a bit on your channel about some different things that have been happening, whether Stephen Jones, of course, taking more control. How much has he really been control in the past couple of years? You kind of wonder about that. You got guys, of course, staying here, like Will McClay, that's going to be staying here. We're still up in the air with guys like Dan Quinn and the defensive coordination of whether our secondary guy, Al Harris, is going to be there. So there's a couple of question marks there. What do you think about it? I mean, I know you've talked on your channel quite a bit, but is Dan Quinn a guy that you would want to bring back? Is he a guy that if he leaves, you're like, whatever?
Yeah. Here's the deal. I don't know. I have a feeling that we would get Joe Witt, however you say it.
Yeah, Joe Witt.
If McCarthy truly has his guy, that's who they'll go after. I would like Mike Zimmer. I just think that the players play unbelievably hard for Mike Zimmer, but I don't know that would happen. I don't think McCarthy would want that to happen. I just would rather have Dan Quinn back, but Dan Quinn is so stubborn. Man, that's my problem with Dan Quinn. He's on the precipice of being unbelievable and being a god, but he's so stubborn when it comes to the Shanahan offense. He cannot Shanahan offense, and whether it's a guy who was coached under Shanahan, as we saw in Green Bay, it's just like, my God, that offense just kills Dan Quinn, man. So I'm at the point now, Phil, if he goes, he goes. I don't care, man. If he stays, that's great. I'm not overly worried about it, man. It's all going to come down to what our front office does, and I know we'll get into it, but my answer to you is it is what it is, man. I think he's did what he could do with this team with the talent that he has. So I don't really care, man. If he goes, great. If he stays, great. I mean, what I mean? I think he's gone.
When I look at Dan Quinn, I look at that playoff game, those playoff games in general, where we kind of needed to be, whether our offensive, I talked about it before the game even happened about this offense kind of having their whole. It takes them a bit of time to kind of get going. But again, the offense did score 30-something points, and yes, you allowed one touchdown on that offensive side as well too. So you got to kind of give it to them on that one. But the defense didn't show up, and I think that's what you've been seeing is when these big games. The defense doesn't tend to show up, and we have a guy like Micah Parsons that's a guy that can change the game and how even offenses try to block him and scheme for him. But if you're not moving him around, if you're not you're setting him as the defensive end, which is you're making him automatically undersized. You see how defenses are handling whether it's holding and stuff. You're not getting any of the calls, so you need to change it up. You need a scheme to try to get him open and through it. I mean, he's so fast that if you're hitting two guys and he's going in between. He can break through there because now those guys aren't holding on to him. So there was no scheme, and I think that's where you're talking about when you're talking about Dan Quinn and his stubbornness to even just move forward. That you run the man coverage all season, and that's like the best thing about this defense. And then you turn around and you go to a zone.
Brad still wants answers. Why are we running a friggin' zone defense?
And this is what Jordan Love is amazing at, is attacking the zone. And one thing he struggled at is going against man coverage and especially putting the ball into situations.
You said it before the game.
Yes.
For a guy who's as mobile as he is, he's not the best on the run throwing the ball.
But he's going to put it in those spots. And guys like Bland, Skillmore, those are guys that are, if they're close to the ball, they have a chance of bringing the ball in. And so even Jordan Lewis, when you talk about Jordan Lewis as well, that was something as well that he was great at. So to change all that and go, okay, we're just going to go zone coverage. What? Like, it made no sense. You adjusted, but you adjusted to something that made no sense at the time. Like if you would have adjusted, we need to go against whoever, Tampa Bay or whoever the heck the next person would have been, whether it's Detroit. That would make a little bit more sense, but it's just what Jordan Love was weak at and all that, and what this defense was really good at. You went the opposite way with it, and so that's the question that I have with Dan Quinn. And so if Dan Quinn leaves, there's a part of me that's a little worried that this defense is going to go take a step back, and but it's one of those things is that your defense needs to be the main anchor that allows your team to go forward. And if you cannot rely on your defense to make stops against elite teams, you're never going to go anywhere. It doesn't matter what you have on offense. You're not going to be able to score, 35, to 55 points where you're guaranteed to have to score that or you don't win. That's not what you want to deal with, man. You need a defense. Defense wins championships. Everybody understands that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you need that person that's going to lead them. So I'm with you, man. I don't mind keeping Dan Quinn. I like him, but
I'm okay either way, man.
If he leaves, I'm gonna be like, okay, yeah, that's fine as well too. And it's just who do we have to replace him? I'm a little.
I'd rather, if I had my brothers, just keep them. At this point, it's gonna be tough, but I'm okay either way. Just real quick, I got to give a shout out to Ultra Cowboy. I'm not as far down on Dak as he is, but hey, at the end of the day, he was right.
Oh, we'll talk about him. We'll talk about Dak as well.
Ultra, you're right, man. I'm sorry. It is what it is. I'll see you at the draft. I'll buy you a drink. But real quick, we're talking about Dan Quinn, and I don't know where we're going with this, but what I do know
the future is in his hands. If he leaves, he leaves. If he doesn't, he knows he has a job here. So
I'm
just be real.
more worried about our offensive line coach.
We need to change it. To me, we need to change it in general.
I was watching. What was I watching? I try and watch as much content as I can. The people I trust, and they were talking about Mike Solari, and I was telling Mark, Mike Solari is kind of like that Paul Alexander that we brought in, and it kind of screwed up our guys. And Terrence Steele is a shell of himself, not because of the injury, because Mike Solari's got him playing that. It was the Voch Lombardi podcast of Brian Bardas. That's what it was. They were going over offensive linemen, and they were touching on Solari, where Solari makes their guys go a high-low with the hands.
When I pointed out during the season, we talked about this, and I mentioned that even Zach Martin is playing badly under him, and to me that meant that the offensive line coach can't be the guy there because your running
Mark's in
game
the
is
house. What's up?
struggling. I don't see any of this stuff, so I don't know what's going on my side.
Mark says, "Hello, good people. Glad to see Primetime back." Brad Harris, Phil, great graphics once again, sir.
Thank
Alina,
you.
how are you, Alina? Nice to see Alina in the house. Clemente, do you guys think the Eagles need a linebacker now due to their new defensive?
We need a linebacker.
Hey, Clemente. Here we go. First, I got to do that. I got your thing. Here you go, buddy. Number 2, the hell with, I'm sorry, Twist. We got to worry about linebackers ourselves. We got to, this is how bad I am on the Cowboys right now. I'm just going to do it. Let's go Sixers.
Oh, my
Let's
God.
Let's go friggin' Sixers.
That's disgusting.
Anyway. Yeah.
So there you go.
Now
my stuff. I wasn't getting any of this content. Here, give me 1 second. I need to copy it over so I can. Hold on. I need to copy it so I can give the live chats. Hold on. All right. Cool. Well, I'm trying. Yeah, I told you. I have to.
Okay.
I
wasn't listening.
I needed to redo the chat thing. Otherwise, I couldn't bring up their words and stuff to the screen.
It's what? Is it like the lid or what?
Yeah. Yeah, and so I'm right there, Twiz. Like, both teams need that, man. Eagles, Cowboys, we need true linebackers. Like, I like Bell. Again, I'm a big fan of Bell. I'm okay with him being in our secondary, being able to come down and really fill the hole and stuff. I have no problem with him. If he could put some more weight on, that'd be amazing. But I want linebackers. Like, I want guys that are going to stop the run. Like, they're going to be able to come into the hole and just, stop it like Ken Norton Jr. used to kind of do back in the day for us. Of course, we're talking history because it seems like that's all we have right now. But again, so we were talking about Dan Quinn moving on and stuff. So that's the next part that I have to go on because we have to say about each position.
I love the bag over the head. I love it. God, that reminds me of.
So I have to go and I have to start from the beginning. I have to start from the beginning. Dak Prescott, man. You're going into your final season with Dak Prescott on the board where you can finally walk away from him. If you don't do an extension, obviously $60 million kind of pushes that you want to do the extension with him. Where are you with Dak Prescott, future quarterback, Trey Lance, on the, all that? Where are you on the board?
You're going to go right for the Dak Prescott, right? I don't
am.
see how we can go away from him, Phil. Just be honest with you. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know how, I agree. I don't see how we can not have him. And I'm sorry, Ultra. I'm just being honest with you. But I do like your overshown Patrick Queen Cooper 2024. I love that. So, but yeah, we'll get to that. But yeah, Phil, I would say we have to bring him back, man. And it's not a bad thing. He's a great quarterback. Just he doesn't have much postseason success. But again, we've laid out kind of why. People are going to say it's an excuse, and it's a fact. Okay, did he have a great game? Hell no. But we need a running game, people. We need offensive linemen, and we need a stud running game. That'll help. Man. That'll just help.
So I'm on the board where, I jumped on some bandwagons where we're talking about Dak Prescott as a regular season quarterback. Now, again, you didn't have the defense backing him up, but again, I'm tired of this whole defense kind of staggering a little bit, and it's stupid stuff that they stagger themselves with, whether it's offensive, false starts or just wide receivers not catching, and a lot of the times it can be Dak off a little bit. So I mean, with that combination of there, when you're paying him, do you just? I would be what the hell? I would be okay with going with if you paid him that last year and then you kind of decided to move on from him.
You could hear that?
I could. I would be okay with it, but I'm with you. I'm okay with it. They do the extension because, again, you're right there. You can't really walk away from it. You kind of have to allow him to get another 3 or so years here before you kind of walk away from there. I don't think he's the worst of your situation, but you kind of have to keep your eye on the fact that he hasn't been able to win huge games, and when the game really needs to be won, other than coming back in the second, third, and fourth quarter, it's that beginning part. I need you to show up from day one. I think for the first moment that you throw that ball, I need you to be a champion, and that's what I'm not seeing right now. And so I like Trey Lance in the background.
I can't argue with you, man. I can't argue with you.
I like Trey Lance in the background. I like possibly extending him to be here. I think it's a good situation for him because there's no spotlight at the moment on him. It all changes, of course, depending on how he comes in situation-wise. Is it more of an injury? Is it more because they want to get away from Dak? Where's the pressure going right there? So I'd like him as a backup quarterback, of course, moving on from Cooper Rush. But going into the next situation there, because we're going to go around there because there's no really good answer when it comes to Dak and that, is Tony Pollard. Do you let Tony Pollard walk away this offseason?
Yes.
Do you let the running back? What do you do in the running back situation?
Tony, good luck, bro.
I agree.
Get me a comp pick, man. Go get me a comp pick for next year. Yeah, no, we're moving on from Tony Pollard. We need to draft a young guy. I had Cole's Cowboys on, and he was telling me that they seem to want to. Word is they don't want to bring in a Derrick Henry or anybody. They want to go young. So I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with that either. That means you're going to have to draft. You means you're drafting somebody in this draft, and you're probably going with that approach. Most of the time.
And this draft, just real quick, this draft is like last year minus a Gibbs and a Bijan. It still has all the running backs. It just doesn't have the two high-end guys. They got too cute last year regarding running back. They should have drafted one higher. There's been many hits. It feels like yesterday, me, Phil, Mark, DMV, all sitting at the draft. And
That's the truth.
Our pick came up and all these guys were still on the board. Me and Phil talked about Steve Avila. We talked about Osiris Torrance. We talked about Joey Porter Jr. We talked about all these guys, even a Bergeron out of Syracuse. And
I like
we're like,
Yeah.
And we ended up outthinking ourselves or overthinking ourselves, and we took Mozzie. And
with the whole draft, it felt like, really, honestly.
It took us all by storm. And you know what? They just did the all-rookie team. Osiris Torrance is on it. Linderbaum is on it. Steve Avila is on it. Joey Porter Jr. is on it. The one guy who's not on it is our guy. We got too cute. Just take the guys that are there. Our best drafts, and I know I got off on a tangent, but you're asking me what we need. Like, this goes into the offensive line.
I need offensive
line. That's why when Ultra brings up what's his name? Patrick Queen. Yes, I'm all in on Patrick Queen. If not Patrick Queen, somebody else in the NFL who's an established stud at linebacker. We can afford, once we redo these contracts, to get a interior lineman, bring back Hankins, and get an interior lineman, whether that's a Leonard Williams or somebody. It don't have to be Leonard Williams, but there's a lot of. I rattled off the names last week, and you get me a starting linebacker. You got Overshown coming back. Then we could go into the draft and address the offensive line at least 2 times. I want a center, I want a tackle/guard, and I want a running back. And then we could roll, man. Let's just take best available, but we got to do the right thing. Spend the money, Catboy. But yes, running back will help Dak. If you're going to trade Dak, all I will say to your question, if we're going to trade Dak Prescott, what are we getting for him?
Well, there's no trade. Okay. There's a no trade clause in him. He would have to be. He would have to be.
Well, he would
okay
have
with
to
it.
agree to it.
Yeah. So it would have to be somebody that's a contender of some kind, I would imagine.
I don't think we're getting into the top of the draft with that. So were we trading him to New England? Okay, where's New England drafting? I don't even know. 4th, 5th. And then what are we going to do? Go draft a young a quarterback? Okay. I mean, then I guess we're going with Trey Lance. That's a big risk. So would I hate that? If we're going to trade him, then you go get me a young stud and we'll start Lance. I guess we could do that, and hope and pray that Lance works out in the interim. But I think
if I was to go with the Lance experiment, I would need a veteran backup, and I'm not talking about Cooper Rush. I'm not keeping Cooper Rush to give it as a veteran. I need somebody that's going to come in and win. He won in the 5 games. No, that defense won those 5 games, and that's what we needed. We needed that defense to hold up for our offense to eventually get into the game where they scored 30-something points, but your defense didn't do that. And so a running game is a big one. And, of course, Tony Pollard, to me, being on that short list of team, well, not even a short list, it's a pretty big list of guys. There's only like a handful of guys that I would bring back in our free agents that are hitting the market. But, Tony Pollard definitely isn't one of them. And if you're paying him maybe $2 to $3 million a year, yes, then I'm okay with it, because we all know this next year he's going to have an amazing year. So if he is not here and he is somewhere else, just be ready that he's going to have an amazing year. It's going to look stupid. Oh, I can't believe Dallas let him go. Well, Dallas wasn't going to pay him $6 to $8 million a year to do, what did he do last year? He can be a powerful weapon, but he's not going to be, it's just not going to be here. So, again, that second year coming off that same injury, we all know that injury can last that first year. Second year does amazing. So, whether he's here, whether he's somewhere else, just get ready for him having a good year. And if you may be regretting that whole decision,
That's what I think, Twiz, when we'll spend a high draft choice on a QB. Lance couldn't cut it within winners. Yeah, that's, and that doesn't mean he ain't going to be it, but early returns are he couldn't handle the spotlight over there. So,
yeah, so that's where I worry about it. That's where I worry a little bit about him.
Are we ready to take a step back? Then why are we going to resign? I if we're going to get rid of our, again, to the people who don't like Dak, I didn't like the playoff game either, so I'm going to call it how I see it. He had a horrible game. Mm-hmm. He looked like a deer in the headlights. He definitely did. I'm not going to sit here and say anything else because it's wrong. But the fact of the matter is he's going to be a MVP runner-up in 2 out of the last 3 years. That's the fact. He has value out there. You just got to identify, is it with us or is it with another team? So
yeah, I think if you hold on to him to the right time, I think you can get a really high. I think you can get up to a second if you. Just depends on what type of situation those teams are in. You saw like some teams got pretty desperate about quarterback, and if they see, you have some kind of body of work, let's say for the preseason, because if he's the backup, he's going to get a lot of preseason work. So all of a sudden he shows really well, and then something happens during the season to one of those teams. All of a sudden that value of a guy like Trey Lance goes up. And that's what I liked. I liked that about Mike McCarthy before at Green Bay. He was always picking quarterbacks in the draft. He was always grabbing them. Yeah, all these Matt Hasselbeck, there's just a whole wave of guys that sat behind Brett Favre that they just picked up, allowed him to learn, and sent him off and got value from that. And that's a lot of Belichick as well, too. Belichick loves to do that. I was curious, and nobody's really said this, and so I'm going to point this out just because if we're all about weird, screwed, just thoughts of what could happen during the season or this off season. Now we were talking about Dan Quinn earlier, and of course Dan Quinn possibly being that guy that if he decides to leave, we're not surprised. How do you replace him and stuff? What do you think about a guy, and maybe his ego doesn't allow it, but what about if a guy, you're hearing so much about Belichick being a head coach, what about a Belichick being a defensive coordinator?
He'll never do it. His ego wouldn't allow it.
That's what I was saying, the ego, right?
He wants that all-time winningest coach. I don't know. He's not far away from Don Shula. So, that's what he wants. But maybe a year away, if he's going to sign a 4 or 5 year deal with somebody, what's a year away?
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you're a defensive coordinator right there, and you already have that guy, Mike McCarthy, going into his last season, not signed, there's no extension. That means there's a possibility of him walking away.
If he wants to coach for the Cowboys, where they are very much on hand, they're on hand owners, where they don't just leave you alone and let you do what you want. Mm-mm. It's every little thing is scrutinized with the coach. McCarthy has no authority. Let's be honest. Let's just keep it real. McCarthy has no authority to do anything of substance without going through the Joneses. Whereas, Bill Parcells would say, no, I'm doing this. Or Jimmy Johnson, I'm cutting this guy. And then they would have to scramble and figure out what they're going to do. Yeah. Once Jimmy left, Then it was no. Now it's we want a guy who fits under our mold, which is why we kept Coach Clapp for 10
my
seasons.
God, yeah.
Think about all the wasted careers. Sorry, Jason Garrett, you're a hell of a guy. Yeah, nothing personal, but you killed the Cowboys' progress, man. You killed careers with, it just sucks, man. It really does. And until Jerry Jones is not running this team, Phil, he hasn't been for quite some time. It's all about Stephen Jones, and he's got to change his philosophy. You remember what we were talking about? Remember how hard we were going after them after the Rams went all in. They pushed all the chips in, and they won a Super Bowl. And and then Steven goes, well, we don't run an organization like that. They're going to be in cap hell, and we don't want to have a down year. They've already recovered, Steven. They won a championship. They've already recovered, and we're in the playoffs this year. Okay, so shut up, because everybody was afraid to play the Rams this year in the playoffs because they were good. But they've already won their Super Bowl, took their hit, and now they were back again. So it's just very, very, very frustrating. It's a process.
Let's be real. I mean, let's be real. When it comes to Stephen Jones, it's like, I can see him doing good stuff with this team. I just depends on what philosophy he's going to come out with and kind of go. I don't know if he's going to try to do it on his own in the beginning and then kind of eventually give up some of that stuff just to be the face, which I'm hoping that's going to be the case. Like, hey, I'll let Will McClay do more of the GM stuff. I just want to be here to talk to the camera, wink a little bit, kiss babies, that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping that's kind of the approach that he's eventually going to take. But, his whole, we're going to be a little bit more conservative when it comes to running backs. It's like, I get that part of it. Paying the running backs hasn't been the greatest thing for us. That's kind of like, weighed us down a little bit. I mean, the offensive line, I think, is where we got stuck in with some of those contracts. And the age eventually caught up with some of those. As soon as Travis Frederick going down, I think this offensive line has never really been the same since then. You got some guys that I look forward to. I look forward to TJ Bass. I look forward to Hoffman. I need to see what Hasim Richards has. So I'm going into this draft hoping that they can add on to that some tackles, man. If you get some tackles in here, if you're putting some value into that position, that will be.
Man, I want a stud center.
Mm-hmm. I would love that too, man. Trust me, I would be all about that.
Did good at guard, Go give me a stud center.
I love their attitude. I love the attitude that they were playing with. The talking. If you saw any of those sounds of the sideline, you saw how they were talking. It's just a great vibe that you bring to this defense or this offense, and it brings that defensive mentality over to the offense. Ready to hit somebody, ready to push somebody out of the way. That's one thing with Tyler Biadasz. He just can't get to that next level. He gets kind of stuck in that position, and he's not to the linebacker, and so that's where you're getting Tony Pollard hitting him in the ass. Because he's not putting any pressure, pushing the defensive tackle out of the way or helping the guard push the defensive tackle and then getting to that next level. He just has a problem getting to that next level, and so that's why this offseason. Do they pay him? He can say, well, I'm a Pro Bowler and everything. Yeah, just let him walk away, man. If that's going to be the case, let him walk. It wasn't like he was holding the offensive line together. But you got some decisions to make. Tyron Smith, what are you going to do with him? Is he going to be one of those things where you can get him down to a deal?
But tell him he has to earn the starting job.
How old is he now, man? Like, seriously, it feels like
we plan on drafting your replacement, but that doesn't mean you won't start. That's how I would do it. I would. That's how I would do it. Just like you asked me about Dan Quinn. What's your thought on Al Harris on record as saying if Dan Quinn he goes where Dan Quinn goes?
See,
everybody who wanted Al Harris now.
I love Al Harris. I love Al Harris in the sense that.
But I don't know that he's ready to be the coordinator.
Yeah, I like his attitude in the sense of ready to be this. Hey, dude, Aaron Glenn is defensive coordinating over in freaking Detroit.
Yeah, that's true.
And
Good call.
Al Harris, I love his let's attack that ball. Let's get the ball. Like he's down there on the sideline with this team, rooting them up and stuff. So if he had control of the whole team, where he's talking defensive linemen and he's in their ear about getting pressure, give me that ball. I want the ball. Give me the ball. I want that ball. Remember that whole thing with the replacements and stuff like that? Yes. I want a guy like that that's in their ear, ready to yell like yes, and is excited. Not Dan Quinn up in the booth. Here, give him a call. Hey, great job on that play. Like, no, man, I want a guy down the sidelines ready to go. So I love the energy that Al Harris brings to this defense, and I would love that for a defensive coordinator, because come on, man, our defensive coordinators have been fat asses that have just kind of been like, great job, like, you know, it's like, and so give me a guy with some energy, you know. Got Dan Campbell over there with his team doing push-ups and stuff like that. Give me a guy that's going to get excited and get this team excited. So I'm okay with Al Harris being it. I'd give him a chance. I don't want to just automatically assume that he would fail. I just know our secondary is a lot better than what it was, even with scrubs at times.
Yeah, Ultra says Joe Witt Jr. is better than Al Harris.
Yeah, I got to give him that. I will agree.
Yeah,
I will agree.
That's probably what's going to happen.
And I'd be okay with Joe Witt.
Listen to the scouts. If they would have, Sam Laporta would have been the pick of 27. Yeah, Ultra, if he was on the clock, that's who arguably Dallas was going to take. McCarthy really loved Laporta. I think he went before us, right, Ultra? McCarthy loved Sam Laporta. So,
like that
again, this is, and we talked, me and Phil, when we were doing our mock drafts and stuff, we liked Laporta, but I didn't think, listen.
I didn't think he was going to be there. I didn't think he was going to be there by the time we were picking, honestly.
Yeah. So, as it turns out, he's arguably the best tight end, early returns of the draft.
Was he Ultra Cowboy? Yeah, but I was going to pick let me just be real. I was going to pick offensive lineman there. That offensive lineman was my main focus. Getting a guard, so we could put Tyler Smith to the outside, have a guard in there.
Then they didn't listen to McCarthy because McCarthy loved him. So again, Mike, it's your job on the line. Stick to your guns. Why reach for Amazi Smith? And I want to get to the two Michigan players that have already been mocked to us at some point in this stream tonight.
Michigan.
Yeah. I mean, I love me some Corum, the running back. That's fine, but they're mocking us Chris Jenkins' son in the second round. Again, if you look at the scheme, it's a passive read and react defensive line that Michigan plays. It works in a college game, but it does not work in the pro game. Mozzie is too busy. Everybody's moving on the ball, and Mozzie's sitting there still in a stance sometimes. It's pretty ugly.
David, I'm not moving him for less than 3 first. Let's be real.
Yeah.
I want 3 first for him.
Will wanted Taco and Mozzie. Yeah, Will didn't want what's his name out of Pittsburgh, a T.J. Watt, because he didn't fit the scheme, but he wanted him some taco. Sorry.
It wasn't even Tuesday when he was picking it too, so bastard.
Yeah, right. It wasn't even Taco Tuesday. It was Taco Thursday. Oh, yeah, Thursday. First round freaking pick. What a waste. So, if DQ leaves and he wants Micah, would you take 2 first rounds for him? Yes, I would. Love Micah. If you give me 2 first round picks, yes, because I don't know that they know what the hell to do with them. So
I'd take 3. I would take 3 first rounders. I wouldn't do 2.
3.
But
how about 2 1s and a 2?
Obviously, I want to get somebody in here that understands how to use them. And so I think that's that biggest thing is just like, yeah, you're gonna work him at defensive end, but I want him like out of 10 plays, I want a defensive end at 3, linebacker at 2.
I would trade him and then go sign Chris Jones in free agency.
Yeah, I think Chris Jones is gonna be like a $28 million guy right now. The way that he's been
but
playing.
You're gonna pay him at least that, Micah. That's what they're saying. So I'm just saying, if you're gonna give me 2 1s and a 2 or 3 1s for Micah,
if I had a Chris Jones type of guy in that defensive line,
you can go get him.
I would put Micah at the linebacker position and kind of let him work around him. just because he's going to open up some stuff. People aren't going to want to try to cheat away from
I'm
him
just saying,
to get to
hypothetical. If you're
Micah.
throwing out hypothetical, I would trade him for the picks and then go out and get me a couple studs. Go get me a Patrick Queen and a Chris Jones, and let's ride, baby. But again, that's fantasy land. I agree, Ultra. He needs to play in a 3-4 system. I agree. That might be in our future. I have a feeling.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I would definitely agree. I think he's just a better linebacker. He's able to get to the side. If he can get into those gaps and get to the side, he's just an amazing. He reminds me. He glides in those spots like Zach Thomas to me. Like Zach Thomas was really good at getting to those sidelines and getting up into the backfield and getting through that trash. And I think Micah does an amazing job of doing that.
David Cowboy.
And if you get your hands on him, he's able to do more than just right off the bat. He's hitting the defensive end, or he's getting a tackle, or getting chipped by the. He's not that size, He can play big. That's how he is. He's just a guy that plays big. But you're just smacking his body around for most of the game. I don't really like that. I don't like how they use him. So that's why I'm okay with a different defensive coordinator. When you're looking at that, who are you bringing? Who's your guys that are bringing back? If you had to pick 3 guys to bring back in this offseason with the guys that we have leaving, who are you bringing back?
I can bring Hankins.
Yep, Hankins would be one of mine.
Hankins, Gilmore, and who else is out?
I'm gonna go Armstrong. I'm gonna go Armstrong as for my last one.
Yeah, and Armstrong. Those 3. If I could bring back 3, I'll take those 3. I like Dante Fowler too, but he's going where Dan Quinn's going.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I thought Dan Quinn. I thought Fowler earned more playing time, and he didn't get it. He got a little bit more, but I really like Dante Fowler. I think he's a ball hawk. I think he's an attack player, a pressure player. That's why I said, man, I don't like to get too attached to any one player. Speaking of getting worn down, who got worn down this year was Osa Odigizua. I love Osa, but this is back-to-back years where the end of the year he kind of wore down a little bit. And that's why I said, man, go out and get me a Leonard Williams or a Leonard or somebody else, man. You go get me an Allen out of Washington.
To me, he's a rotational guy. Like, great guy. Can bring up some energy. Yeah. If you're bringing him in
playing too many downs, I thought.
Yeah, I agree. He's not one to. He's just more a finesse guy. So taking on all those powers and having used a lot of the power, he just got tired by the end of it. So if you can again give me some defensive tackles that can rotate, I think that's going to be your get. I just don't want guys like What is his name? Gallimore.
Neville's gone. Man.
Yeah, I just don't want to see him back though. Like go play for the Raiders because we all know that's exactly where he's going to end up. Every guy that's like that for us ends up being a Raider by the end of it. So you might as well just go over there. There's just some guys I'm just happy they finally are going to hopefully move away from. It's just again you're seeing these off seasons start to happen. I want them to be able to walk away from some of these guys that they should walk away from. You got some really good, nice young studs. You don't know what your draft is going to bring you. But, of course, you can't get looped into some of these contracts because you have to take care, of course, CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons. Those are the main – to me, that's the main 2. Maybe Bland. If you're kind of – he gets beat and stuff. But, I'd rather have a guy like that can change the game, get, interceptions and stuff like that than Anthony Brown that was just giving up those
yards. That's why I said Gilmore, bring him back because that would allow Bland – to play in the slot where I think he's the best. And we don't forget Eric Scott Jr. We did trade up. We gave up I
gotta see a body of work with him because when it looks at the preseason, I just saw him getting really blown
he really
away.
Took a step down from the from the practice field to the games in preseason. So, but that doesn't mean he's not going to be good. I think he does have a high ceiling. It's just where's his floor at right now? just like Fehoko. I'm a little annoyed at that. We drafted him, I believe, in the 5th round.
Well, I mean, this is a good spot.
Year.
If you don't bring
And
back
he
a lot
did
of,
nothing.
let's say Armstrong. I think Armstrong's going to be one that's going to be hard to bring him back if you're not going to pay him, because right now he deserves that money, and so somebody's going to pay him something. You might see him turn around and become an Eagle or a Washington Reds commander and stuff.
What guy? He has 7.5 sacks, right, on limited time.
Almost
and he
every
plays
single
special
year.
Teams. He has a blocked field goal and a blocked punt all in one season. He's going to be very coveted because they want defensive rotational pass rushers who could play special teams.
And if you don't have a guy like Fowler that comes back, you're good. Fehoko, I think now you're going to see him. You're going to be able to see him going into this next year. If they're not going to make moves, you're going to see guys like that now get into the rotation that wasn't there before. So, we'll end up seeing. I like Gilmore bringing him back because I love his mind. When he talks about the corner, he's talking to our wide receivers, allowing them to become better. Hey, look, as a corner, this is what I'm seeing. As you're jumping into it, you're kind of giving away where you're going. So I like the value that he brings on both sides of the ball. And to me, until his game drops off a lot, I mean, think about our 4th, 5th corner. Is he better than them? Yeah. I mean, to me, he's that number 2, number 3 type of corner. If you have, Diggs coming back and you have Bland, you're not putting Bland on the inside because, he's not as good as a corner. No, you're putting at it because, like Bryan said, he's a great slot corner. And, of course, Gilmore's great on the outside as well, too. So, I mean, you're just putting people in their strengths. So
I just want Gilmore back for depth. We're not going to keep what's his name is not coming back this year. We paid him $4.5 million. Jordan Lewis, he's gone. Be honest, on
I can see Jordan Lewis back. Yeah, he's one of those guys that he's kind of like Bill Bates. He just keeps making the roster every year.
Yeah, I don't need Jordan Lewis back. I'd rather, I don't know, man.
Give some of these younger guys a chance.
I think it's over. I think you can't keep everybody. We kept them. I'm not trying to be mean, but we kept him this year when I think we both were on the same page of he could possibly be a cap casualty going into the season based on the $4.5 million, and him coming back from that injury. Let's face it, he missed 3/4 of the season. He wasn't himself until right before the playoffs, and he had some plays down the stretch, and that was great, but ultimately it didn't prove to be enough for us. So I'm fine to move on. Goodwin is out.
I don't think
Goodwin was
back,
already old. I've been getting rid of him for 2 years. He's a great special teamer, but his days have been gone. So, sorry, brother. Move on, buddy. So, that's the way it is.
When I look at these,
I was happy when they beat y'all with Fangio. Yeah, Fangio has our number, Twiz. I ain't gonna lie to you. He's a good defensive coordinator. Not so much a head coach. Just goes to show you, Dan Quinn. You can be a good coordinator, but you want to run your show.
Yeah. So as we go into the next thing, I mean, we're talking about these defensive lines, talking about the corners, the defense, the safeties. We can go into that whole thing. We don't know what's going on with Curse. Is he going to be back? Is he going to be one of those guys that follows Dan Quinn if he decides to go somewhere? So they're going to going to be more in that kind of situation. And really, like I really like Curse. I'm a big fan of his. But he's one of those guys, again, that if you don't sign him, you're like, okay. You understand. You understand why you're moving on to hopefully find somebody else. I mean, if you don't get injuries and things that happen, you don't know what you have with Bell at all. Where we were big fans of Bell. As soon as we picked him up, we weren't thinking that he's going to be playing linebacker and stuff like that. But that's what I don't, the fact that he was able to do it, kind of just that, if we need you to do something in a very important game, this is a guy that can come in here and do that. Wanye Thomas, a guy that I am a big fan of. We definitely say on this channel, just a guy that can make a difference on special teams. Those guys are having to play a little bit of linebacker type of positions.
Cowboy.
So I have to ask, do the Cowboys this offseason go out and get linebackers, or are we doing this stupid hybrid stuff, or is that going to be something depending on when Dan Quinn's are back or not?
We shall see. Dan Quinn likes the hybrid type guys, it seems like, and that's fine. I don't see Curse back. We got Marquise Bell. We have Wanye. We have. I just don't see Curse back. It's just my opinion. He's a great player, but we got we got Donovan Wilson. I don't see Curse. There's no room. But I want to. I want a guy who's just a linebacker. He don't have to be position flex. He doesn't have to give me all that. I want a guy who can make tackles, man. Give me not Bobby Wagner, because at this point it's laughable. We should have had him each of the last 2 years. But give me a guy like a Bobby Wagner that's all he does is make tackles, sideline to sideline.
Yeah, Ultra Cowboy, I'd be all about that. Patrick Queen, yeah.
Yeah, I know. That would be great. I've been saying that for a week now, but we'll see. We'll see what Cowboy's going to do. We need to address, like I said, I really think it's smart to address the defensive line and linebacker and free agency.
I think defense should be the main focus.
I'm talking day one or day two. Go get me 2 guys. Then you could roll into the draft and get your offensive line, get your running back, and fill in around it. Best player available. And then you could add after that. There's plenty of players you could add after the draft. Things you didn't get, but that's the way to go. If it doesn't happen, Stephen Brown, what's up, buddy? If it doesn't happen, then Phil, me, Mark, Cole's Cowboys, everybody has to call out Stephen Jones because he's the guy behind it. He just wants to keep us relevant, people. He just wants to keep that money machine coming in around the holidays. They don't want to have a downturn. Give me the downturn. Because you know what? Those years after the season's over, I don't know if you remember this, Phil, but if you don't win a Super Bowl, right, you pretty much 31 teams are upset at the end of the year, other than the one team who actually went to the Super Bowl. And then all of a sudden, at a snap of a finger, we got a top 10 pick. There's great hope for the following year. This is the NFL. Things can change quickly in the NFL, especially when you're flipping over 40% of your roster every year. Give me a top pick. I want to take my shot. Go all in, please. Can we please go all in, finally? Please. I'm not holding my breath, though.
Yeah, when I look at this team and I'm talking about the future and everything like that, what I want is of course, to be aggressive with guys that can make a difference, not just guys like, at one point they were projected to be amazing, but they never really panned out. Let's see if we can squeeze something out of that and actually it pan out for us. Like, not every single pick is going to be Leonard Davis, you have an okay career over here, but we pick you and all of a sudden you're an all-pro guard. That's not going to happen all the time. So, I mean, the value there, I think you just don't have that mastermind like Jimmy Johnson was, that was able to look at the draft and go, okay, this is where that draft guy should fall to. Let me get a draft pick close to there. Let me draft this other guy. Okay, if I can get a value over there with this safety coming from the Colts, like maybe James Washington, they're coming from the Colts and stuff. All of a sudden, he's getting you Super Bowls, interceptions and stuff like that. So he had an eye for talent, and that was coming from the same guy. Right now, you have this whole committee that you can't make a decision without it having to go through vote, like some kind of tribal survivor type of shit going on. And so, this is where the corporate Disney, we messed up, and there's one guy having to answer it for. But really, it's a whole line of guys that are in the back there going, well, financially, we can't really take on this guy. It's just like, dude, you're the Dallas Cowboys. Yes, you have to profit share, but let's be real, man. You got to go in at some point, all in. And if you have some people at the helm that all they're thinking about this is as a business, and I think Bryan on one of his kind of shows when he's talking about this, he's talking about how Stephen Jones sees it as business. You got some teams that want to go in there and win, and then you have some teams that are just happy to be in the game. Like, I'm just happy to be making revenue and being able to support my family. Like, that's not the kind of guy that we need at the helm. We need somebody that's going to attack. John Lynch, man, that's one thing I give credit for. I don't like the 49ers, but I got to give John Lynch credit, man. He's going out there. He sees little weaknesses. He goes out and trades. He messed up when it comes to Trey Lance. He gave up a lot for Trey Lance. But look what he did. He was able to move away, get to the next one. They had Pretty kind of just drop in their lap, but they kept trying different quarterbacks, and he wasn't afraid to do that. So that's what I want. I want somebody that's just, instead of going, I made a mistake, let me not do anything at all. Let me just sit here and stay still. Like he you know what I'm saying? Like
let me just... Yeah, I run what I run.
Yeah, and there's a panic. Like it's just like he's walking on eggshells, and you hear that first
Brown
crack.
Brings up a good point.
What's going on?
He says Jimmy was a great college coach who knew the players. This is where the league is going. This is why Belichick is not getting hired. It's going young, people. There's nothing wrong with going young. I want a young mind. That's what I want. I want a young. I love the Miami coach. He's a little weird, but he's a hell of a coach. I want a young defensive mind. I don't need, our next coach, it doesn't have to be a retread. Give me a young guy with some ideas and how to run offense, innovative. That's what I want. I don't want the same old, same old. That's why I don't think that Belichick's going to get a job unless I just don't. I don't.
Probably be in college. He'll probably go back to college or something like that.
Maybe.
Go to Alabama. Now he's going to be the new Alabama one after 1 year. $800K. Yeah, I mean, anytime you get a rookie contract, obviously, with it, especially a 7th-round guy, you can do those type of things. But you take advantage of it when you can. And, I mean, Dallas had the rookie contract for Dak for how long? And then they're putting him on franchise tag. So they weren't paying him like an arm and a leg. But they weren't going out and solidifying a shutdown corner and doing those type of things. That's all the 90s stuff. And it just, you wonder if Jimmy was just in Jerry's ear, like, dude, we got to do this, man. We got to do something. You just don't have that now. You just have a guy, well, we got to be careful. Stephen Jones just sounds like a little bitch when he talks. Let's be real. When he talks about finances, he's so hesitant that he's even hesitant about talking about it. That's how hesitant he is. That's his gripe, And so to me, it pisses me off.
West Virginia country boy, welcome to the show. I haven't seen you here before. Thanks for stopping in, man. Make sure you sub up. No coach will win a Super Bowl with JJ. It's a playpen.
But we're wondering if they can win the Super Bowl with SJ, Like, I want to know if Stephen Jones can get it, because Jerry's no longer – he got no hand on the wheel. Like, he got nothing. He's just talking. He's just that dude in the passenger seat that's just randomly talking about stuff. I like ponies. And you're like, yeah, that's nice. You just let him kind of talk. Turtles. I like turtles. So I'm interested. I am definitely interested to see where this team goes. I mean, if it went in any direction, if you fired all your team, your coaches, and you fire this and you could trade off this and that, I'd be okay with it, man. Let's blow it up. Let's try to start over. Let's try to find some young talent and just kind of go into every battle where we're just trying to figure out what we are. I see a lot of Cowboy fans that are like that, man. They want to get rid of Dak. They want to push that away. I think I'm with you, Brian. It's just something that we're not going to be able to just walk away from,
I don't think so. I just don't think so, man. I don't. So it is what it is, man. He has control of what happens. 9 All-Pros on this 2024 team. Yeah, ultra. People get caught up in that, and I think we were doing it with mirrors. I haven't really talked to Phil since the season was over, but I'm just gonna rattle it again for the people in the cheap seats who haven't heard me. Phil, we were 8-1 against sub 500 teams. Okay, we beat Seattle on the cups. They were on the cusp of a playoff. They were a good team, not a great team. We were 3-4 against playoff teams. Okay, we were doing it with mirrors, people. Once Van Der Esch went down, we were way too thin a linebacker. We played defensive. Hey, Phil, we played 6 to 7 defensive backs in the game against Green Bay for 48 out of 54 defensive snaps. That's against the 3rd-ranked rushing offense in Green Bay. So we were doing everything wrong, and then we played zone on top of it. Mm-hmm. So, It was just add insult to injury. I don't know. I don't have the answers. Brad wants to know why we played zone.
Yeah,
I want to talk to Stephen Jones, and I want an answer. Or Mike
yeah,
McCarthy. I don't want you to
Dan
laugh or
Quinn.
say I'm an idiot.
Quinn. Somebody
I want
says
to know.
Dan Quinn's all like, man, the night before
Ozzie?
somebody dared me that I couldn't play zone and win. I was like, fuck that, I'm gonna do that. Like,
I want to know what happened to Mozzie Smith. You drafted him at 332 pounds coming out of the draft. He finished the season at 290 pounds. Was that a Mozzie Smith decision, or was that some brainiac in the organization that wanted him to lose weight? I need answers.
So, like Brad Harris, I'm gonna go with you on that one. Dak is not the problem. And right now, like my stick on that is kind of with Bryan, where like you struggled with this guy's career and trying to get him to be the quarterback that he is now. Like, if you could get quarterback Dak Prescott now and put him in his younger body where he could just hit that mind, his throwing capability. Yeah, there's times where I think when the lights are really, really bright, he kind of just tends to like, and it takes him a little bit of time to get into the game. But that's why you need a defense that's going to keep him in that game, because it's not going to be all him. He's not that guy. Unfortunately, he's just one of those guys that are up next, so he gets paid like he is that guy. And I mean, you saw Daniel Jones get a big paycheck. That wasn't meaning that he's that guy. It's just he happens to be. And you've trained him this whole career to be, again, the guy that he is now. And, yeah, you're going to have to figure it out with a lighter load, whether it's drafting guys and getting really studs in there, being creative with your team and who you're actually – if you put a guy like Brian's saying, if you put a guy like Chris Jones and you're spending quite a bit of money on that defensive tackle, he better do quite a bit of stuff, and that's the kind of guy that can do that. And so that's why he brings him up, is because if you're going to spend that money, boom, spend it on a piece like that that's going to be able to take away the run game on an offense. And now you have a great secondary that can attack, because you're going to have Diggs, you're going to have Bland. Hopefully Gilmore comes back. You got young secondary that's really hungry. It depends on who you have in that secondary, the safeties. But again, if you're spending a big piece like that, that's a very, very important piece that could really help change that defense. And no matter who's coming in, that sets them up with a nice little future there. But, of course, Chris Jones isn't the answer forever, because we all know he's at the later part of his career. But
I'm just saying, if you were to trade a guy like
but there's a difference in stats when he's not there and when he is there. It's a big difference in the stats.
Beast.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if you were to trade Micah, hypothetical, we're just throwing out hypotheticals.
Yeah, it's all hypothetical. I don't think they're not going to spend money on Chris Jones. Yeah.
Then you instantly upgrade the position now. I'm not saying down the road or for the rest of their career, but right now, Chris Jones is better than Micah as far as just a pure defensive edge rusher. That's all I'm saying. So if you're going to do that, it would lessen the hit if you went out and got a Queen and a Chris Jones or whatever, and then drafted your offensive lineman and running back, man, that's roll. But again, it's all hypotheticals. I'm not saying to do that, but I don't know where they play him. You have to pay Micah. If
you're gonna get Chris Jones in here, if you're gonna put Chris Jones in here, then you're gonna go a 3-4 defense. You got to go 3-4, and then that right there, you're putting Micah in the middle line, one of the middle linebacker positions, which I think he would be amazing at, and I think that's what you should have been
to do.
Mm-hmm. So you would change that.
Where you got to go with this. So that's why we're not overly concerned about Dan Quinn leaving. The only issue with Dan Quinn leaving, people, is Al Harris is going to go, and some of these players, are going to follow him. So if we like the edge rusher that he brought from Atlanta, he's going to go. You might see a lot of guys follow him for similar money to go play with Dan Quinn. That's what kind of guy he is. So just expect that. Dan Quinn will be offering like picks for Micah. He wants Micah wherever he goes. So
but let's be real.
To see how it plays out.
Dan Quinn has gotten his way with some of this draft, and this is the reason why we've gotten away from some of these offensive weapons that we're talking about, is because Dan Quinn has had that influence to be able to say, well, I know what you all are thinking, but I really like this guy.
Like Rod Marinelli before him, yep.
So I mean, I think they're listening to him too much. So that's why there's a part of me that's like, if that's the case that happens, it is. But it's because he's choosing to. We're not getting rid of him. It's he's choosing to leave, and it kind of just makes it where it's like, okay, everybody's we can kind of reset. But if he stays, I love his defense. It's just I need to see him come out in big games and actually do well with the defense. It's just that's the part that I question Dan Quinn on, is because anytime when it comes to big games, and we all know that Atlanta New England game that everybody likes to talk about in the Super Bowl, where you have the Patriots where you want them, and then you just allow them to score and come back and then win the Super Bowl on you guys. So he's shown it since then. So it just. How did they get to the Super Bowl? They were a great defense that got them to the Super Bowl. They just did not perform when they really, really needed to. So I think that's kind of reminds you of what's happening right now. So that's why I think with the changes, just because they change, that doesn't automatically mean that they actually are going to change to a 3-4, blah, blah, blah. So Bryan, man, we have gone through an hour of talking Cowboys, really. Like, we didn't really kind of go into some of these other games and stuff. We got Royal Rumble coming.
Man, but it kind of flew. Listen, for whatever reason, it seems like when I'm with Phil, shit just flies about as easy as I could ever remember. I may talk too much at times. He may talk too much, but we don't get offended by it. It seems like it's a pretty easy conversation for us. We're not forcing it. I don't know. It's very comfortable. You want to get into these games or what?
We should, because I want to kind of get going, because I got to watch some events with the little one.
All right, yeah, 8 o'clock. I know. All right, let's get into the games real quick, people. The first game of the day is the Kansas City Chiefs visiting the Baltimore Ravens. The Chiefs are a 4-point underdog going into Baltimore. Beautiful weather here, so shouldn't be a problem. What do you like, Phil?
Baltimore's been my pick since we talked about I said San Francisco, Baltimore. Those were your guys. Possibly Miami was going to be in that mix. I didn't think Kansas City, but I did say right when the playoffs were beginning that Kansas City was those teams. I'm going to put them they can turn it on as soon as the playoffs happen. The thing about it is when I look at the two teams, unless Baltimore just does its Baltimore thing where it just craps the bed, because it has been known to do that. When you have everything in the palm of your hands, that's when you just throw it all away. That's what I think about with the Baltimore Ravens. So that it could just so go that way. But when you're just looking at the matchups, and if everybody plays their game, Baltimore to me is the better team and should be able to just destroy the Chiefs. They should. But the Chiefs will make it close because they're a playoff team.
Who are you picking?
I'm picking the Baltimore Ravens, though. I'm still picking the Baltimore Ravens, even though history doesn't say that they should win this game. But the team matchup, I say they're just a better team.
I'm gonna go right at you. I'm gonna go. I know we're going to the Royal Rumble, Alter. We're getting there now.
Trying to
My
get
kids
there.
are in the other room watching it. I'll take the Chiefs plus the 4 points. And we'll roll.
Look at
I
that.
think
We're going
Baltimore,
opposite.
if they
This
win,
is how we opposite.
it's a field goal game. So, of course, we go opposite.
Yep.
We don't skip a beat. All right, let's go to this one's fun. This one's real fun. We go to the nightcap. Detroit Lions plus 7.5 at San Francisco. Detroit plus 7.5 at San Francisco.
Yeah, to me, San Francisco is that team. But they have been known to just kind of, and they are that team this year, man. Unfortunately, and if they have to go against Baltimore just destroyed them. So where I thought San Francisco would take Baltimore and be able to do that kind of stuff, to me, San Francisco should be able to take care of Detroit, but that doesn't mean anything, man. San Francisco has not performed well when it really, really, really matters in the playoff, and this is one of those things. And there's a little part of me that's going to be rooting for Detroit. The fans that they haven't seen any kind of championship or any kind of winning in the playoffs for how long. There's a little part of me that would love to see San Francisco fans kind of just cry a little bit. But
bang, Niner gang. I just think they go down. Detroit plus the 7.5.
I'm going to go 49ers, unfortunately. So.
Bank it. It'll probably be Ravens and Niners. But I'm rooting for Detroit. And I really don't care who wins the Ravens game, but give me the 4 points with Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes has a point to make with the whole road road thing. He's never had to be on the road, so shout out to him. But it's 1-0.
Yeah.
But I like Detroit plus the points to shock the world and win the game outright. Outright. Sorry. Debo's going to be crying on the sideline. So that's what I like.
I'm trying to see.
You all right?
Okay. Yeah. I'm just trying to see because I think it went offline for a second. I think OBS is having this weird thing. It's like, get off the line.
Yeah. It's a shit show these days. It's probably me. But yeah, I like Detroit outright. Anyway.
All right, Brian. Well, I appreciate you coming through, man. We're back. It's been, forever. What, a couple of weeks here, 2 weeks.
What's up, Tim Hargrave?
Since I talked about any of this kind of stuff. So it's good to be back talking about Cowboys football. Of course, I was pissed, and it had to be like a lot of the Cowboy fans. Like, I was just waiting to see what happened. And again, I'm going to be, I'm just sitting on my hands, just trying to figure out what's this team going to do, or what's you doing coaching wise? What are you doing off season wise? Are you making moves? Are you just going to sit back? What's going to be the strategy? I'm just very interested, especially since word is more that Steven is taking more control over this team. What's going to be the approach, man? Is there anything going to change, or we're going to play the same old thing? So, Brian,
we'll know right away, man.
So I appreciate you coming through. Anything that you want to say to the crowd before we leave?
No, I'm scheduled to. I expect to be there tomorrow. I'm gonna be waking up, doing a swap of my SSD drive to a bigger one, so I won't have some issues. So I plan on being live by 3:00 tomorrow, 2:45. Stay tuned. Stay tuned for that. I hope it works out to where I am. So yeah, you can. Me, I don't know. I haven't talked to Mark, but my guess will probably be streaming. But yeah, 2:45 tomorrow, game time, Brian. Check me out.
All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you guys coming through, talking Cowboys, unfortunately, off-season, just football off-season, because this is the time, man, where everybody there's a lot of us that are resetting. Only 4 teams left by the end of this weekend. Of course, only 2 teams left. And just like that, the NFL season is going to already be that close to being over. Again, and I'm a big advocate for putting the Pro Bowl after the Super Bowl. I do not like the Pro Bowl before the Super Bowl. I think the Super Bowl winners have the right to be able to go to that Pro Bowl with the chest out, saying, hey, we're the champions. I think that just means more. And they can still be Pro Bowlers themselves. You don't have runners-up getting Pro Bowl nominations just because guys couldn't go itself. So again, guys, I appreciate you coming through. Leave a comment. Let us know what your biggest move for the offseason is going to be for the Cowboys or for your team as well too. Brian, I appreciate you coming through. But one thing I appreciate everybody not forgetting to do is do what?
Always ring that bell.
Damn right. See you guys later.
Hey, we know each other. He's a friend from work.
What you do, you're like a little screw loose type of guy, and that's how I am. So I'm digging it, big guy. I am.
Who are you?
You.
No, not me, you.
Yes, I am you.
Just answer the damn questions. Who are you?
Gamtime Bryan, otherwise known as the mailman here,
Cool name. Superpowers?
broadcasting from the illustrious Jobu Studio.
Come on, are you gonna tell me who that is?
Primetime Phil, and of course my co-host, Gametime Bryan.
Oh, Jesus Christ, this place is going to explode. $100,000, I don't even need to hear it.